Hi friend, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and today I'm going to continue the video from last week, which you can catch right here if you didn't see it, about choosing intermediate level lighting consoles. If you've gone ahead and you've looked at entry level, bottom of the barrel stuff like DMXs or the Chave Obey 40 or any basic lighting console, and you're saying to yourself, okay, that looks a little too simplistic for my needs, then it may be time to jump up to an intermediate level console. And today, I'm going to compare and contrast my favorite intermediate level consoles. I'm going to show you what I like, I'm going to show you what frustrates me, and help you choose the right one for your needs. And so I'm going to do this primarily inside of the computer. So join me there. But first, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe so you get the latest here from Learn Stage Lighting on YouTube. And also in the links below, I have a gear guide that's going to help you choose the best lights and the best consoles for your needs. I want to give that to you totally free. All you got to do is sign up. The link will be below as well as at the end of this video. So let's hop into the computer where I'm going to compare and contrast my favorite intermediate level lighting consoles, including D-Pro, LightShark, LightKey, and we're also going to go over a few others that I don't really like that much and explain why. The very first intermediate level console that I recommend to people is Entek's D-Pro, and the reason why I'm featuring this one here first is because it's the cheapest option, and that's precisely what it works best for. I'm not going to tell you that this is the best thing since sliced bread, but what I am going to tell you is D-Pro, for most users, for most people that I've worked with, and in my experience, is a solid program that can put together a good light show. And so at the end of the day, if you kind of want to no frills and you're concerned about budget, D-Pro can be a really great option. And I've had a lot of people use this. It's a pretty simple program. You simply patch your fixtures, go here to the device browser where you can select fixtures, bring them into the programmer, and then use different palettes to apply colors, movements, gobos, whatever, to those lights. When you're done with that, you save it. Boom. I'm not going to. You bring it here into the show control window where you're able to play back your different cues, and you can even see, if we turn some lights on here, you can even see what the output looks like on this 2D visualizer of sorts. It's not a true visualizer, but you know, it gives you an idea of what the lights are doing. And at the end of the day, for a lot of people, this might be a really good fit. Now, where D-Pro starts to run into issues is, as you probably noticed when I was programming, this interface that it has with selecting the lights and applying attributes, it is not the slickest and it's not the easiest to work with. Can it get the job done? Yeah, it can. And if budget's your primary option, D-Pro, the 2-universe version here in the US, retails for $200. You've got to buy some output hardware separate, or you might already have some. But at the end of the day, it's a really good value for what you're getting. That's why I recommend D-Pro. Now, let's kick it up a notch and talk about the LightShark. The LightShark is a console that I recently saw described by a user in the Facebook group for the LightShark as what they saw as the future Behringer X32 of lighting. Now, whether you like the X32 or you're a hater, you can't argue with the fact that it is a console that has changed digital mixers for the better. It brought prices down. It was really the first that I saw really affordable digital console that was easy to use and could be produced massively. And I've been mixing digitally since about 2007, I think, on the side. I don't do audio as my primary thing, but I still do it. And so the LightShark is really special because it's this intermediate level console that runs its own software. And then on a computer or tablet, you bring up this window in just a regular web browser. Literally, I'm just here in Chrome, or you can use whatever you want. Probably not Internet Explorer, but you know, any regular browser. And you work with your lights just like a professional grade lighting console, but things are simplified a little bit. So I can select my lights, I can apply colors, I can apply positions that I've built into palettes. I can work with the individual parameters, of course, for the various facets of the light, the various attributes, and I can create effects. And truth be told, they got off to a little bit of a rocky start. Some of the initial big software updates had some bugs in them, but I work with these guys now, and I do it because I really believe in their product. And I've had users who have gotten this thing, they've started to use it, and they're really happy with it. It's an unbeatable price. You can buy a console called the LS1 that has 10 faders and encoder wheels and looks much like you would expect a lighting console to look like, or the LS Core that's just a box. And they got a wing coming out later this year that looks really cool, not just for the LightShark consoles, but also for other consoles as well. And so you won't want to miss that. But I really like this thing because I have a lot of people, and this might be you if you're watching this channel, who you look at the intermediate level consoles that I recommend and you say, well, David, I want something that doesn't run on a PC. I don't want to have to manage a PC. I don't want to have to make sure people aren't installing stuff on it, etc., etc. I want a standalone console. And the LightShark is just unbeatable in the value that it provides. In fact, just earlier today, I was working with a client over the internet, over a video call, and they were looking at the Elation Stage Designer 2 CF. Not a bad console 10 years ago. But today, we've got much better options. This comes in not only less expensive than that console, but is a much easier interface to use and much better. Now, what do people not like about the LightShark? Okay, why should you not choose the LightShark? Well, it is limited in some ways, being an intermediate level lighting console. It looks like a pro-grade lighting console, and it can do a lot and make a great show. But just like I've mentioned before, you might have to rearrange the way you do some things to work the way that the LightShark wants to work. For example, if you come into a playback here and you go into the settings, you can set the fader to control HTP channels, LTP channels, effects speed, or size, but you can't select specific attributes that you would like or not like to be brought up or down by that fader. Again, this is something that with any other console, you would have to jump up to a professional grade to get these features, okay? Another thing somebody was noting recently was on the playback buttons, the executors here, you can only have one cue on each button. You can't have multiple. And, you know, that's true. There's this and there's probably other things you might find that if you've used professional grade consoles, you might say, but I want to do this. And truth be told, I think the LightShark really toes the line well between allowing you to do some fairly complex things without being overly complicated. And these guys have also mentioned the other thing that isn't perfect in this console, that isn't great, is the effects right now. And the development team has talked about it, and they've said they've got a new effects generator working. It's going to be released probably very late 2019, as in December, and you guys should be able to see that then. But it's a cool console. It's a great concept, and I really do echo that comment that I read on Facebook the other week, that I really think this is the console, as they work out all the bugs and get the software just perfect here. I think this is the console that really could be the X32 of lighting consoles. It runs on its own. You can do a lot of good things. And at the end of the night, you just go ahead, shut it down, end your day. You're done. No PC to tear down. Just unplug the power and you're off after it's shut down. Now, let's talk about the LightKey lighting console for Macs. LightKey has got to be, just like the LightShark, an intermediate level console where you get different opinions depending on who you ask about it. Personally, I like to think that LightKey is the new Vista, formerly by Jan's, now owned by ChromaQ. For those who aren't familiar, Vista is a console that I first saw probably 11 or 12 years ago when the first consoles, the big consoles, first came out. And you know, it was a cool console. I wasn't much of a programmer back then, so I only spent a little time on them. And they came through time and they became really, really popular with churches because the Vista, just like LightKey, had an easy to see 2D view like this and worked more like a regular computer program like Photoshop or something like that than they did a lighting console. And LightKey takes that same premise but refreshes it because, well, Vista to me isn't worth what they ask for it these days, and unfortunately hasn't gotten the attention that it's needed over the past few years to be great for the intermediate level. I think LightKey has stepped in and really taken up the slack. So it's really simple, and I've got a full review. You can check it out. But you go ahead, you select your lights, you apply different attributes to them, and you save them here to presets, and then you bring those in the Live tab to cues. LightKey can do a lot of things. I like it a lot, and I like to recommend it, especially to people who are Mac users, because it really aligns well with that Mac way of thinking that I admit I used to be a hardcore Mac user. I'm not anymore, and it's not always my favorite, but for a lot of people, especially if you haven't programmed lighting consoles before, then you'll probably feel right at home with LightKey if you like Macs. Now, LightKey is not as inexpensive as a lot of these other consoles I've covered. In fact, while they have different levels, often it's going to cost you more over time than the other consoles that are recommended, especially if you have to buy a Mac. If you don't have to buy a Mac, and that's kind of assumed here that you already have one, if you're someone who's looking at LightKey, then, you know, obviously buying that Mac would add a ton of cost to it because, well, Macs are kind of expensive. Even this used one that I bought that I'm running this on was kind of expensive. So with that in mind, LightKey does a really great job at being visual, being simple, and making it easy to work with the same type of attributes across different lights. See here, I've got these moving lights. These spots here have color pickers instead of color mixing. These wash units, they have color mixing. I'll show you if I get up to them. I can mix any color on them. But if I go on my spots here, and I actually grab all my movers, and I pick a color that the spots have, the washes do their best to imitate them, and that's a really good way to look at LightKey. It really does simplify lighting, and I think it really brings it home for a lot of people to be simpler, be easier. If you haven't worked with lighting a lot before, I definitely recommend taking a look at it. Of course, my link for it's below, and they have a demo version, or if you're a church with just a few lights, you can use up to 24 channels of DMX for free with LightKey. Now that we've kind of taken a quick look at all these different consoles, and again below I'll have links to all these consoles. You probably saw through the video at least some of my tutorials or my reviews of these consoles. And so now let's jump back in to the video and wrap up why I only recommend these consoles and why a lot of consoles in the intermediate level honestly just don't make the cut. So now that I've highlighted the consoles that I like the most in the intermediate level, let us talk about the ones that I don't recommend, okay? There are so many out there, and a lot of these get pushed hard by salespeople. In fact, you know, I have relationships with some of these companies, and I don't recommend all their products. Why? Because I only want to recommend consoles that are good here. So, in the intermediate level, some consoles that I don't recommend include ShowXpress, ADJ's MyDMX, Blizzard has one called Eclipse, there is, what is that one called? Doesn't matter. There are a lot of intermediate level consoles that I don't recommend here. And the reason is that I'm constantly talking to people, trying out all these consoles, working with them, and talking to users of them to make sure I'm always recommending what I find to be the best consoles in the junction of cost versus performance. And these consoles, they just don't make the cut. A lot of the times, it's because there's some inherent bugginess and or issues over time with show file corruption and other issues that can come up with a lot of reprogramming. Over the long haul, I just can't recommend these guys, and so that's why I don't feature them here. Now, Remember to grab my free gear guide. I hope you've learned something today and use this to help pick out the best console for you. So be sure to grab my gear guide. It's here on the end screen and also at learnstagelighting.com. I'll have the link below so you can grab that guide there. I hope this has really helped you, and I will see you guys in our next video here.